And did you discover your partner was a liar, leaving you with only $43.67? Literally just logged into our shared checking account and saw the available balance read $43.67. $40, $3.67. My jaw literally dropped, like cartoon character style, and my stomach immediately twisted into a knot of pure ice. I'm 49 years old, Kelly Bryant, 49F, and I should be past this level of financial disaster. But apparently, past me was an absolute clown who trusted a liar. I'm sitting in my beat-up 2018 Honda Civic in the Costco parking lot right now because I couldn't even finish buying the paper towels. I swear I was just supposed to run in for Kirkland Essentials, and now I'm here questioning every single life choice I've made since 2021. Okay, let me back up because this is a lot, and I need to type it out before I explode. I need the internet to tell me I'm not crazy. I've been with Alex, 48M, my fiancé, technically, for 2 years and 8 months. We share everything, apartment 3B, the Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus password ecosystem, and crucially, the joint checking account where we pool our funds to pay the $1,247 rent every month. Alex is a freelance graphic designer. I put that in quotes because his gig has always been sketchy. He's always on the phone, always stressing about deadlines, but the money is erratic. Meanwhile, I am an adoption trauma processor. I know it sounds intense, but it's stable, steady income, and I work mostly remote from our dining room table, processing claims and counseling clients. I'm usually the primary contributor, which I never minded, because Alex was going to hit it big any day now, you know? Spoiler alert, he did not. First little tickle of dread started last week, Tuesday at 11:47 a.m., right in the middle of a Zoom call with a high-needs client. My phone buzzed 4 times rapidly. It was an alert from the bank. I minimized Zoom just long enough to see 4 separate withdrawals, all marked ATM withdrawal. Each one was exactly $200, totaling $800 in less than 15 minutes. I felt my heart rate skyrocket. I mentally double-checked. Rent was already paid. We hadn't discussed any major cash needs. We pay for literally everything Starbucks runs, the $43.67 Trader Joe's grocery bill last night, the $347 electric bill all on the debit card. Who takes out $800 in cash? I text Alex immediately, risking the client overhearing the rapid clicking on my iPhone 14. Me, hey, did you pull out a bunch of cash? $800 is gone. Alex immediately, yeah babe, had to pay a supplier. It was cash only, didn't want to mess with Zelle. I'll replace it on Friday. Me, $800, who's the supplier? What project? Alex, don't worry about it, Kay, it's for the Big Porthos account. Trust me, I hate when he says trust me. It always means I shouldn't. But I had to jump back on the call. I did the thing where you just smile and nod while internally screaming. Told myself, okay, he's busy, he's stressed about this Porthos client, he will fix it Friday. Friday came and went. No deposit. Saturday, I tried to pay for a late lunch, a sad Chick-fil-A run because I didn't feel like cooking, and the card was declined. The one with my $3K paycheck from Tuesday in it. I had to use my backup credit card, and the embarrassment of having a declined card at 5:30 p.m. on a Saturday when the line stretched out the door was just At night, I confronted him calmly while he was binging something awful on Hulu drinking a cheap beer. Me, Alex, the card was declined today. I know you said you'd replace the cash, but the math isn't mathing right now. Alex, without looking up, eyes glued to the TV. Relax, Kelly, it's fine. I just had a little delay with the client payment. It's coming Monday. You're overreacting. Me, I'm not overreacting, Alex. I have $1,247 rent due next week, and I have to pay the $85 plumber charge for the sink disaster. We need this money. What is actually going on with the Porthos client? Alex, God, why do you have to be so dramatic? It's a freelance thing, Kay, it's volatile. Just use your own separate savings account for the plumber. It's 1 week, the gaslighting, the audacity. I felt my face flush. I was furious, but also strangely numb. I knew deep down this wasn't just a delay. I had this weird conversation with my best friend, Donald Edwards, 47M, over the weekend. Donald is my friend from college, and honestly, he has a tendency to be a jealous jerk sometimes, especially towards any man I date seriously. He went through a rough divorce, and he's been bitter ever since. Donald texted me early Sunday morning, unsolicited. He'd seen Alex's weird Facebook post about hustle culture. Donald and Jill Kelly, Alex has always looked like a user. Are you sure he's actually doing graphic design and not just playing Warzone all day? Me, Donald, don't start. He's stressed. The money is coming in Monday. Donald, yeah, coming in from you. I'm serious. He told me last year he was struggling to pay his student loans. I'm not saying he's stealing, but I'm saying you need to check that joint account closely. Remember the time he borrowed my Bose speaker and pawned it? That was 3 years ago, Donald. He paid you back eventually. Donald, after 3 months and 27 calls in 1 hour, just check the account, Kay, please. I'm worried about you. I dismissed him instantly. Donald is always looking for drama, but the conversation planted a seed, you know? Fast forward to Monday. I tried to ignore the financial anxiety and focus on work. I really needed to concentrate because I was preparing to submit my major PTO request. I was planning a huge trip to Europe to visit the family that adopted my maternal grandfather. It's complicated. I know, I am an adoption trauma processor for a reason. I had diligently accrued 80 hours of vacation time and I needed 72 of them for the trip. So Monday morning, 9:00 a.m. sharp, I submitted the PTO request. By 10:30 a.m., I got the automated email back from HR, PTO request DNID. What the actual fuck? My manager, Brenda, sent a follow-up Teams message. Brenda, Kelly, we're so sorry, but you're 40 hours short for that long of a trip. The system shows you only have 40 hours accrued. Me, Brenda, that's impossible. I have kept meticulous track. I should have 80. Brenda, I see a sick day usage from 2 weeks ago for 8 hours and then 32 hours used as personal leave last week, Monday through Thursday. I felt the blood drain from my face. I had not taken any leave last week. Had worked 40 solid hours, remote, right here in apartment 3B, glued to my desk. Me, Brenda, I didn't take personal leave. I was logged in and working. Brenda, well, the PTO system shows a request submitted under your credentials, approved by you, citing emergency family travel. This is where the nausea started. The sudden realization that Alex knows my work passwords. He knows my whole setup. He literally watched me submit PTO requests 100 times. I logged into my work email history. Sure enough, buried under a massive influx of Slack notifications, I had 47 unread messages. And GL, I hate Slack, I found the request. It was submitted last Wednesday, 2:15 p.m. while I was downstairs getting my stupid Starbucks coffee. He used 32 hours of my vacation time for emergency family travel. I went ballistic internally. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't type. I felt that tight pain in my chest, the one that tells you you're about to ugly cry. I had been saving those hours for 6 months. I didn't even wait for Alex to get back from whatever mysterious place he was at. I went straight for the bank login again. I needed to see exactly how much was left, and I needed to trace that $800 cash. I logged in. The $43.67 balance hit me first. Then I went to the transaction history. $800 cash withdrawals were still there. But what happened between Friday and Monday? I scrolled down. Friday night, Zelle transaction, $550 to RS Fitness Coaching. Saturday morning, Cash App transfer, $300 to Muscleman 47. Saturday night, Zelle transaction, $499 to Robert Scott. Robert Scott, 27M. Wait, I knew that name. I had met him once, maybe 6 months ago, at a weird protein shake bar Alex dragged me to. Robert was this intensely energetic, annoyingly handsome 27-year-old with zero body fat and a terrifying addiction to kale smoothies. He was Alex's personal fitness coach, the health nut extremist who had Alex on this ridiculous 4 a.m. workout schedule. Alex had been constantly badgering me about tracking my macros on MyFitnessPal and shaming me for eating Ben & Jerry's, clearly influenced by Robert. I thought Alex was paying Robert $100 a week. This was nearly $1,400 just in 3 days, all going to Robert Scott, the health nut extremist. And then I saw it, the huge one, the transaction that had finally broken the bank down to the $43.67. Monday morning, 9:15 a.m., Zelle transaction, $1,247 to Robert Scott, new program deposit. $1,247, our entire goddamn rent money, Zelled to Robert for a new program deposit. He didn't just spend the money, he took the exact amount we needed for the lease that was due in 2 days. I felt the rage I hadn't felt since I found out my high school boyfriend cheated on me in the back of his beat-up Toyota Corolla. I saw red. He had drained our rent, stolen 32 hours of my PTO, the PTO I needed for the trip tied to my actual life trauma processing, and given it all to his insanely ripped 27-year-old guru. And I swear I'm not making this up, but right at that moment, while I was sitting in my car trying not to scream in the Costco parking lot, Alex texted me. Alex, hey babe, did you happen to see my Apple Watch anywhere? I need to track my macros before my session with Robert at 6. The casualness, the absolute, unmitigated disrespect. I was so worried about tracking his macros with the man who had just taken our rent money, he couldn't even bother to check if we had money for toilet paper. I didn't reply immediately. I needed air. I drove home, completely abandoning the Costco run. I walked into apartment 3B and Alex was already there, pacing the living room in a ridiculous athletic fit tee and brand new AirPods Pro. I guess Robert's program included new accessories. Had his keys in his hand and looked frantic. Alex, babe, thank God you're here. Did you see my watch? I'm late for Robert. Me, you're late for Robert. Alex, where's the $1,247? Alex, he freezes. His eyes dart around the room trying to avoid contact. He knows. What $1,247? Me? The rent money, Alex. The money you Zelled to Robert Scott for a new program deposit this morning. I just checked the account. I have $43 left. Alex, okay, look, I can explain. It's an investment, Kelly. This is high-level coaching. Robert promised me this revolutionary new diet and training plan that's going to make me absolutely ripped, and that confidence is going to translate to big Porthos contracts. We're talking huge money in 6 months. Me, 6 months? Alex, we have 2 days until the landlord wants the rent. We have a 12-month lease. Do you know what happens if we don't pay? Alex, don't freak out. I know you have your private savings. You can cover the rent this month, and it'll pay you back double when the Porthos money comes in. Think of it as a short-term loan. I stood there, vibrating with contained fury. He wasn't even sorry about the money. He was sorry he got caught. And the audacity of him demanding my savings, which I have been building up meticulously for years to cover his fitness delusion. Me? Oh, I'm not overreacting, Alex. I'm not giving you my savings. That is my money. The joint account was for joint bills. I also saw that you stole 32 hours of my PTO last week. Alex, the color drained from his face this time. He didn't expect me to know that. W8 PTO? I needed a little cushion. I didn't know it was that serious. I thought you had tons of hours. Me? It was for my trip. The trip I've been planning for my mental health. It was denied because you stole the hours. Why did you need a cushion, Alex? Is that why you took $800 in cash too? What is this Robert Scott thing, really? You look exactly the same as you did 6 months ago. Alex, stop yelling at me. This is exactly what Donald said. He said you were too sensitive and dramatic. He said you tried to sabotage my professional development. Wait, Donald, my friend Donald, me, what are you talking about? You talked to Donald? Alex, yeah, he stopped by the other day. We're just chatting about my career trajectory. He said I need to prioritize my health and fitness to succeed in the freelance market and that you were dragging me down with your negativity. He said he told you that you were overreacting about the money. I felt dizzy. Donald, the jealous friend who warned me to check the account, was also apparently encouraging Alex to prioritize his extremist fitness coaching with my money and calling me too sensitive. Was this a setup? Was Donald actually helping Alex while pretending to help me? I needed clarity. I needed to know if Alex and Robert were just financially reckless or if Donald was actively trying to sabotage my relationship and finances, somehow benefiting from the chaos. I looked at Alex, who was now sweating nervously, adjusting his too tight performance shirt. Alex, listen to me carefully. I am not covering the rent. You need to get that $1,247 back from Robert Scott right now, or you need to tell me where it is, or I call the landlord and tell them what happened. Alex, don't be ridiculous. Robert doesn't do refunds. He's really strict about that. You are destroying my potential. After all I've done for you. What have you done for me, Alex? Besides drain my career leave and the household funds. I wanted to scream, but I remembered the one thing my lawyer friend told me when I complained about Alex's sketchy business practices 6 months ago: document everything. I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to throw his expensive, performance-enhancing protein powder all over the apartment. I pulled out my phone. You know what, Alex? We are going to talk about this later. But I'm not discussing my PTO or the rent with you unless I have proof of everything we say. Open the voice memo app on my iPhone. My finger hovered over the record button. Alex, thinking I was giving up, took a step forward, slightly relieved. Alex, good. Now can you spot me $20 for gas? I'm late for Robert. I need my session. I can't miss it. He's going to explain the advanced macro tracking. I will absolutely not give you $20 for gas. I have $43.67 left in the shared account, remember. You are not leaving this apartment. Alex looked stunned, realizing I wasn't backing down. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of cash, a very thick wad of cash, easily $300 or $400 rolled up with a rubber band. My eyes went wide. Where did that come from? If he had cash, why did he drain the account? Why did he ask me for $20 for gas moments ago? Alex saw the direction of my gaze and quickly shoved the money back down, looking instantly guilty. Alex, this is for the Porthos client. A deposit? I shouldn't have brought it up. That's $400 cash, Alex. You drained our joint account for $800 cash last week and then another $1,247 to Robert, and you are carrying hundreds of dollars around in your pocket, claiming you have no money for rent or gas. I hit record on the voice memo app. Alex, I need you to explain where this cash came from and why you didn't use it for the rent that's due in 2 days. Tell me the truth about Robert Scott. Alex looked at my phone, then at the terrified realization on my face, and then he made a dash for the door. Alex, I am not doing this with you right now. I told you I'm late for Robert. He yanked the door open and was halfway out of apartment 3B when I screamed the one thing that I knew would stop him, even if it was a desperate move. If you walk out that door, I am going to Zelle Robert Scott and ask him exactly what this new program deposit is for, and if it's really $1,247 worth of fitness coaching. He stopped instantly, his back rigid. He slowly turned around, his eyes narrow and cold, and the look he gave me was utterly devoid of the charm I had spent 2 years and 8 months falling for. It was pure calculation. Alex, you touch that and you will regret it, Kelly. You have no idea what you're stepping into. He walked back inside, slammed the door shut, and grabbed the remote, turning the volume on the Hulu show up to maximum, drowning out the sound of my phone recording. I was literally shaking, standing 3 feet away from a man I didn't know anymore, knowing I had just recorded a confession, a threat, and a major red flag all at once. I was done, just done. But I had to know what Alex was hiding and why Robert Scott was involved and why Donald was suddenly playing both sides. I was dying to know what I was supposed to step into. I had the rental lease, the PTO history, and the transaction records. And now I had the recording. I was ready to find out what the hell Robert Scott did with $1,247 of my rent money. I was literally standing in my own living room, shaking, holding my iPhone like it was a loaded weapon, while Alex sat 3 feet away watching some kind of reality TV dating show where people yelled at each other about fidelity. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. I could hear the tinny, overly produced sound effects of the show perfectly, but Alex was ignoring the fact that I was actively recording him. The recording was probably useless as evidence because of the Hulu soundtrack, but it captured the moment, It captured the threat. You touch that and you will regret it, Kelly. You have no idea what you're stepping into. That line. It just hung there in the air, heavy and greasy. I didn't move for maybe 5 minutes. I just stared at the back of his head, at his stupid, too tight athletic shirt. He was clearly waiting for me to back down, to turn off the recorder, to apologize for disrupting his pre-workout routine, maybe even to offer him the $20 for gas. The nerve. I finally walked into the bedroom slowly, still holding the phone, and closed the door. I locked it. Petty? Absolutely. Necessary? Also absolutely. I immediately listened to the recording. It was mostly just me screaming about the PTO and the rent, and Alex mumbling about Porthos and investment, followed by that chilling threat. I backed it up to the cloud instantly. I didn't trust him not to smash my phone if he got his hands on it. Okay, so the rent was due in 48 hours. I had $43.67. Alex had hundreds of dollars rolled up in his pocket. My PTO was gone. Robert Scott, the human kale smoothie, had $1,247 of our money. And Donald, my supposed best friend, was potentially in on it, actively undermining me. I needed to start with Robert Scott. Alex had bolted at the mere mention of me contacting him. That told me everything. I pulled up the Zelle transaction details on my banking app. $1,247 to Robert Scott, new program deposit. Screenshotted it, labeled it Exhibit A, rent theft, and sent it to myself, along with the text exchange where Alex promised to replace the cash on Friday. Documentation is everything, people. I found Robert Scott on Instagram quickly, a Robert Scott fitness guru, naturally. He posted daily shirtless flexing drinking brightly colored sludge. His bio was full of buzzwords like primal living and biohacking. He had maybe 5,000 followers. I decided not to zell him. That was just rage bait. I decided to use the professionalism I usually reserve for processing adoption trauma claims. I found his business email listed in his Instagram bio. Robert Scott training at ProtonMail.com. Very secretive, very high level. I typed out a careful email. Subject: urgent inquiry regarding new program deposit for Alex K. Client: Dear Mr. Scott, I am Kelly Bryant, Alex K's partner. I'm writing regarding a recent Zelle transaction in the amount of $1,247 labeled new program deposit. This money originated from a shared account strictly designated for shared household expenses, including our upcoming rent payment. The full amount of $1,247 was precisely the amount required for our rent, which is due in 2 days. Alex has stated that this amount is for a revolutionary 6-month personal coaching program. However, given the immediate and dire financial distress this unauthorized transfer has caused, I must request an immediate and full refund of $1,247. Could you please immediately provide the contract, terms of service, and a detailed breakdown of the services included in this $1,247 program? Specifically, I need to know the refund policy and why such a significant amount was required up front, especially when Alex's weekly coaching rate was supposedly $100. Please confirm receipt and expected timeline for refund within 2 hours. If this matter is not resolved, I will be compelled to report this as unauthorized use of funds and potentially fraud. Sincerely, Kelly Bryant. I read it over 5 times. Too harsh? Maybe. Effective? I hope so. Hit send at 4:32 p.m. I knew Alex was still in the living room, probably texting Robert to say he was running late, completely unaware I was making a power move. I needed to call Donald. I needed to know what the hell he said to Alex. Was he encouraging Alex's stupidity or was he setting me up? My gut was churning. I called Donald. He picked up immediately, which told me he was definitely tracking my chaos. Kelly, you sound frantic. Did you check the account? What did I tell you? He asked, his voice dripping with that weird mix of concern and self-satisfaction he always has. Donald, I checked the account. It's drained. $1,247 went to Robert Scott, the rent money, but Alex just told me something really weird. He said you stopped by last week and encouraged him to prioritize his fitness program with Robert, and that you called me too sensitive and negative for questioning the money, I said, trying to keep my voice even. A silence stretched for 3 agonizing seconds. What? Kelly, are you serious? He's lying, Donald burst out. I mean, I did stop by. I saw he was stressed, and I did tell him he needs to prioritize something that makes him feel good because he's clearly miserable, but that was just generic motivational crap. I told him he needs to get his money situation under control. I absolutely did not call you sensitive or negative to him. I was literally texting you to warn you about him being a user. Did you talk about Robert Scott specifically? I pressed. Yeah, briefly. He was flexing about this new biohacker program Robert was selling. I told him he should probably get a refund because Robert Scott is a known scammer. His ex-wife's cousin lost like $5,000 on Robert's terrible cleanse program last year. I told Alex that. I swear, Kelly, I told him Robert was a liability. Alex said you told him I was dragging him down with my negativity. I insisted. That's such garbage. Alex is rewriting history to cover his butt. Alt sounded genuinely angry now, not just self-satisfied. Look, Alex has always been terrified of you leaving him. He's the type who, when caught, tries to create conflict between the people who care about you. He's weaponizing me. I swear, Kelly, I'm on your side 100%. I'll come over right now. We need to figure out the rent. I hung up, feeling marginally better about Donald, but intensely worse about Alex. He wasn't just financially reckless, he was malicious. Actively tried to destroy my friendships to keep me isolated. That realization hit harder than the PTO theft. I spent the next hour furiously calculating our emergency budget. I had my personal savings, which I'd sworn I wouldn't touch. It was exactly $4,000, earmarked for the Europe trip that was now ruined thanks to the stolen PTO. I could cover the rent, $1,247, and the plumber, $85. But if I did that, Alex would win. He would think he could keep draining the joint account, and I would just bail him out with my separate funds. No, hard no. I needed to find an alternate solution for the rent while simultaneously nuking Alex's arrangement with Robert. At 5:07 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was an email reply from Robert Scott training at ProtonMail.com. Subject: RE. Urgent inquiry regarding new program deposit for Alex K. Client: Ms. Bryant. I am in receipt of your email. Alex is a valuable, committed client. The $1,247 deposit is non-refundable, as per the terms Alex agreed to when he signed the waiver for the Primal Peak Performance and Macrodosing Retreat. Agreement clearly states this is a deposit for a 4-week intensive program requiring exclusive time and resources from my team. If you have a cosign agreement on the funds, that is between you and Alex, but the money is already committed to program logistics. The value Alex will receive far exceeds $1,247, and he is extremely excited to transition into a new phase of health and success. This deposit secures his spot for the retreat scheduled to begin next week in Sedona. I suggest you contact Alex directly for your financial concerns. He is currently focused on optimizing his pre-workout state. Sincerely, Robert Scott, Primal Health Coach Sedona, a 4-week intensive retreat. Next week. I swear, I had to physically sit down on the bed before I blacked out. Alex wasn't just paying Robert for local coaching. He was planning to ditch me for an entire month using my stolen PTO and our rent money to go on a fitness retreat with his handsome 27-year-old guru in Arizona. This was less about fitness and more about escape, or maybe something weirder. I knew Alex was obsessed with Robert, constantly comparing his own progress to the younger man's physique, but a 4-week retreat in Sedona? That was a serious commitment. The stolen PTO. He stole 32 hours, or 4 days, of my PTO to use as a cushion for his absence while he was at this retreat. He used my vacation days so my employer wouldn't immediately realize I was suddenly processing claims alone for a month, buying him time to get the Porthos contract money to replace the funds before I noticed the PTO was missing. He didn't just accidentally use my time. He calculated it. The rage was no longer hot. It was cold, sharp, and focused. I quickly checked my work calendar. The denial for my Europe trip meant I was expected to be working next week. If Alex went to Sedona, he wouldn't be working his freelance gig. The timing was too perfect. I had to move fast, so 2 days later, the rent was due. I had spent most of Tuesday and Wednesday coordinating. First, I contacted the landlord, Mrs. Henderson. I hate drama, but this was necessary. Mrs. Henderson, I explained, I need to discuss the rent for apartment 3B. My fiancé, Alex, has engaged in unauthorized use of our joint funds, specifically the exact amount needed for the rent, transferring it to a third-party business. I am submitting an official request for him to be removed from the lease, effective immediately. Mrs. Henderson, bless her heart, is 70 and has zero patience for relationship drama. Oh, Kelly, not this again. Do you spend the money on another electric scooter? Last year, he bought a $900 electric scooter, which he used exactly once. I corrected her. No, this time it was a non-refundable 4-week Primal Peak performance retreat in Sedona. She sighed loudly into the phone. Okay, Kelly, I can't just remove him, but I can file an eviction notice for non-payment. If you pay the rent, he's safe for 30 days while we sort this out. If you don't pay, you're both out. What are you going to do? I knew the answer. I couldn't risk the eviction on my record. That would destroy my chances of getting a new apartment later. I gritted my teeth. I will pay the rent, but I am moving out as soon as possible, and I need you to put a lock on the joint account access and communicate only with me about the lease going forward, I told her. I transferred $1,247 from my separate savings account into the shared account. It hurt. That money was my Europe fund. Alex won, but only temporarily. I immediately submitted an official written request to the bank to remove Alex's access to the joint checking account, citing financial misuse. I sent the bank the screenshots of the Zelle transfers to Robert Scott as proof of reckless spending. The bank said it would take 48 hours to process the removal, but I was willing to wait. While I was doing all this bureaucratic damage control, Alex was still treating the apartment like a hotel. He came and went, oblivious. He assumed I'd paid the rent and was just being melodramatic about the PTO. He didn't even mention the PTO again. Wednesday night, I had a tense, silent dinner of microwaved frozen meals. He was on his phone, looking up flights to Phoenix. I was watching him, eating mechanically, and trying to plan the next phase. I needed to confront Robert Scott again, but smarter this time. I had a new idea. I texted Donald. Donald, I need you to confirm something for me. Alex is planning to go to a 4-week Primal Peak performance retreat in Sedona next week. Is Robert Scott usually doing these things? Donald immediately, what? Sedona? No way. Robert Scott does 2 things. Runs a sketchy gym in the valley and sells garbage protein powders. Did a 1-day workshop in Vegas once, but 4 weeks in Sedona sounds like BS. Kelly, I am 90% sure this retreat is Robert Scott just renting an Airbnb and doing some personal coaching, but making it sound like a big deal so he can charge more. The deposit was $1,247. He claims it's non-refundable. Donald, scam, full stop scam. Robert is all about cash flow. He probably needs that money to pay his rent. Did Alex ever mention that he pays Robert in cash? He took out $800 in cash last week, and he had a huge wad of cash in his pocket yesterday. Donald, he definitely mentioned he likes to keep the transactions off the books for Robert, something about Robert avoiding taxes. Alex has been doing a lot of cash transactions lately. I thought it was weird. This was the key, off the books. If the money was being handled primarily in cash, then the Zelle transactions were supplemental or perhaps covering something else entirely. I had to push Robert. I couldn't afford a lawyer right now, but I could afford to pretend I had one. The next morning, Thursday, I sent Robert Scott a new email. Subject, urgent. Legal inquiry regarding fraudulent transfer. Alex K., client, Mr. Scott, I regret to inform you that your previous response was unsatisfactory. I have retained legal counsel regarding the unauthorized and fraudulent transfer of $1,247. I am aware that Alex has been paying you primarily in cash to help you avoid tax obligations, potentially involving money laundering related to his freelance gig, which we now suspect is entirely fictitious. Given the nature of these financial arrangements, my legal team has advised me to report all transactions, including the suspicious cash withdrawals totaling over $800 last week, to both the bank's fraud division and the IRS. I require full repayment of the $1,247 within 4 hours, sent back to the originating joint account. If the money is not returned, the full documentation of all cash transfers and the Zelle deposits will be forwarded to the relevant authorities, implicating you in this scheme. This is your final warning before legal action is taken. Sincerely, Kelly Bryant, representing the joint account holder. I used a new, serious-sounding font for that email. I know I'm dramatic, but it felt right. I didn't actually have a lawyer, but I had a voice memo where Alex freaked out when I asked about the cash, and I had the transaction records, and I had Donald's information about the tax avoidance. I was banking on Robert Scott, the health nut extremist who clearly cut corners, getting scared when the IRS was mentioned. I didn't have to wait long. At 11:58 a.m., my phone buzzed with an email. Object, Ray, urgent. Legal inquiry regarding fraudulent transfer. Alex K. Client, Kelly, look, you need to relax. Alex is an adult and this whole retreat thing is just training. It's intense, yes, but necessary. Alex is doing great. Regarding the money, I don't want any drama with the IRS. Alex failed to disclose that this was shared funds. I can't do the full refund because of the cancellation fee, but I can send back the majority of the deposit to avoid further conflict. I'm selling you $1,000 right now. That should cover the rent issue, right? Please confirm that this resolves the matter and that we will not be hearing from any legal team. Robert Scott. I immediately checked the joint account. The balance updated, $1,043.67. He sent back $1,000. Wasn't the full amount, but it was enough to cover the rent that I had already paid, and it confirmed two things. One, Alex lied about the non-refundable nature, and two, Robert Scott was clearly panicked about the IRS mention and was willing to take a $247 loss to shut me up. Victory, small but vital. I replied to Robert very calmly. The $1,000 has been received. Please be advised that Alex K. is no longer associated with this joint account. Any future transactions will be reported. I knew Alex would freak out when he found out $1,000 was back in the account because that meant Robert canceled the Sedona retreat. I had effectively cut the financial legs out from under his great escape plan. Fast forward to Friday. The bank finally confirmed Alex's access to the joint account was revoked, pending a formal review. I had covered the rent with my own money, but now I had $1,000 back in the joint account. I immediately moved that $1,000 back into my private savings. I was not leaving any money for Alex to steal again. I was now only out $247, the cancellation fee Robert kept, and the 32 hours of PTO. I spent Friday organizing the apartment. I separated every single item that was mine, including the nice glassware, the antique lamp, and all my specific kitchen equipment. I mentally prepared for the next confrontation. The inevitable confrontation happened that evening around 7:00 p.m. Alex walked in, smelling vaguely of sweat and cheap protein powder, looking extremely aggravated. "Kelly, what the hell is going on? Robert just canceled my spot for Sedona. He said you contacted him and threatened him with the IRS?" Alex yelled, throwing his gym bag onto the couch. I was standing in the kitchen, calmly loading the dishwasher. I had the phone recording again, but I didn't care if he saw it this time. "I didn't threaten him, Alex. I simply stated the facts. You took the full amount of our rent money, $1,247, and paid it to him for a 4-week primal retreat without my knowledge or consent, claiming it was for Porthos. I had to use my personal savings to cover the lease," I stated, my voice low and steady. I was surprised at my own lack of volume. The anger was still there, but it was cold. "But it was an investment. I told you I would pay you back when the Porthos money came in. Ruined my chance to finally get serious about my body and my career?" he whined. "No, Alex. You ruined your chance when you stole 32 hours of my PTO and used the rent money to fund your fitness obsession with Robert Scott," I countered. "I got $1,000 back. That money is now safely in my own savings account, and your access to the joint account has been terminated by the bank, pending their fraud review." He stared at me, dumbfounded. "You didn't. Can't just take me off the account. That's my money too. You had $43.67 left in it, Alex. You demonstrated zero financial responsibility. The bank agreed with me. Also, I know you were paying Robert Scott in cash to help him avoid taxes. And I know the Porthos client doesn't exist," I said, hitting him with the triple whammy. He went pale. The cash payment information hit him hard. He started stammering. "Wait, Porthos exists. I swear the deal fell through last month. I didn't want to worry you," he admitted, finally dropping the facade. "So the last 4 months of me asking about your huge client was all a lie? The stress, the late night calls, the urgency? You were just pretending to work while trying to figure out how to pay Robert Scott and still look good?" I asked, feeling a fresh wave of nausea. I was going to figure it out. I just needed the retreat to clear my head. And I needed the cash for, stuff. The $400 cash was from a small design job, a cash job I did for a friend of Donald's. I was saving it for a new piece of gym equipment, he confessed, rambling now, the lies tumbling out. "A friend of Donald's," I repeated slowly. "You're still pinning this on Donald? He was the only one who warned me to check the account. You told him I was dragging you down, Alex. Tried to make me think my best friend was sabotaging me to cover your lies." I was stressed, he shrieked. "I didn't mean it. Look, if you put the $1,000 back and promise not to call the bank or the IRS, I will start paying you back. You'll get a real job, I swear." "No, you won't," I said simply. "I'm not doing this anymore, Alex. I paid the rent, but I've already contacted a moving company. I'm moving out of apartment 3B next Tuesday. You can have the lease for the remaining 10 months, but you have to sign the formal separation paperwork stating you are responsible for 100% of the rent and utilities from September 1st, or Mrs. Henderson will proceed with the eviction against you." The quiet resolve in my voice shocked him more than the accusations. He stopped shouting and just looked defeated. "Moving out? Where are you going to go?" "Kelly, you can't afford to move out. The rent here is cheap. You can fix this," he pleaded, the desperation finally setting in. "I am moving in with Donald temporarily," I lied, knowing that the mention of Donald would annoy him, but I was actually moving into a shoebox apartment downtown that cost almost twice as much. I wasn't going to give him my real location. "Donald, that jerk? You're leaving me for your jealous, miserable friend?" he demanded, reverting instantly to victim mode. "Leaving you because you drained my finances, stole my PTO, lied about your income for almost 3 years, and tried to manipulate my friendships to cover up your 4-week Sedona escape," I said, putting the final plate in the dishwasher. "I'm done." He didn't move. He just stared at the plate rack, processing the finality. "What about the PTO, Kelly? You can't just leave my vacation hours gone. You owe me that trip." I almost laughed. "You stole my PTO, Alex. Not the other way around. My PTO request for Europe was denied permanently because you used the hours. That trip is probably canceled for me this year, thanks to you." He slumped onto the couch, looking genuinely miserable, not just caught. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I didn't know how important that trip was. I thought you could just accrue more. I'm an adoption trauma processor, Alex. That trip was tied to processing my own family history. It was critical. You treated it like a buffer fund for your ego boost. I shook my head. It's over. I walked into the bedroom and locked the door. I texted Donald, "Emergency, need your help moving out next Tuesday." Donald replied instantly, "On it, need a bat? I can bring a bat." I did not let Donald bring a bat. A week went by where Alex and I barely spoke. He slept on the couch. I stayed locked in the bedroom, working remotely, only emerging for food or to do laundry. It was hell. I was stress-eating cereal straight out of the box, and my productivity was in the toilet, NGL. My manager, Brenda, even messaged me asking if I was okay, citing my sudden drop in performance. I told her I was dealing with a severe family emergency and that I would need to submit a short notice relocation request next week. On Monday, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. My heart immediately dropped. Unknown number. "Kelly, this is Robert Scott. I need to talk to you urgently about Alex." Oh, good, drama escalation. Me, I have nothing to say to you, Robert. The matter is resolved. Robert, no, it's not. Alex just Venmo requested me $1,247 and threatened to expose my cash transactions to the IRS if I didn't pay him back immediately. He's blaming you for ruining his life. He thinks I owe him the money because you, his partner, are now taking all his funds. He's spiraling. I think you need to know what he's doing. I stared at the screen. Alex was trying to extort Robert Scott using the exact same threat I had used. The audacity was truly mind-blowing. I realized I couldn't just leave without confronting this level of vindictiveness. Alex was not just financially irresponsible. He was a full-blown manipulator who would burn down any bridge to get what he wanted. Me, Robert, I'm moving out of our shared apartment tomorrow, Tuesday. Alex will no longer have access to my accounts. He is acting entirely alone. I suggest you ignore his threats. Robert, wait, you're moving out? Thank God. Look, Kelly, I am being honest here. I didn't know he was draining your joint account. He told me the $1,247 was a business investment from a venture capital firm, and he wanted the retreat to look impressive. Was always talking about how you were controlling his money and that he had to hide his real income from you. Me, he has no real income, Robert. That was all a lie. Robert, yeah, I figured that out when he started asking for the money back. Look, I am sending you $147 right now. It's what I have left after the cancellation fee. I hope this helps. I truly apologize for being involved in this mess. I was focused on the dollar signs, not the relationship drama. I checked my Venmo, $147 from Robert Scott. That made the total loss on the Robert Scott scam exactly $100. Still too much, but a massive improvement. I replied, "Me, thank you, Robert. I appreciate the apology and the funds. Please cut off all contact with Alex. He is dangerous." That night, I didn't lock the door. I just slept with my suitcase packed by the bed. This morning, Tuesday, moving day. Donald showed up at 9:00 a.m. sharp, along with his sister Maria, who brought me an enormous Starbucks venti cold brew extra shot. Thank you, Maria, you saint. Alex was still asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, looking pathetic. Donald, seeing the mess in Alex, just shook his head. "NGL, Kelly, this guy is a disaster. Let's get your stuff out before he wakes up." We started moving everything. Donald and Maria were incredibly fast. Used the element of surprise beautifully. We had about 80% of my things packed and downstairs into the U-Haul when Alex finally stirred around 10:30 a.m. He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and saw Donald carrying the antique lamp. "What are you doing? Donald, get your hands off my stuff," Alex screamed, jumping off the couch in his underwear. Donald, who is built like a fridge, just looked down at him. "It's Kelly's stuff, Alex. You know that. She's moving out. It's over. She wants the separation papers signed before noon today." Alex looked around the half-empty apartment. His cheap IKEA furniture looked even sadder without my decor. He looked at me. I was standing by the door, holding the rental agreement paperwork, looking exhausted but determined. "Kelly, you can't do this to me. You're ruining me. I won't have anywhere to go," he wailed. "You have a lease, Alex. You have until the end of the month to figure out how to pay $1,247 per month, like an adult," I replied, shoving the separation paperwork and the new apartment keys onto the kitchen counter. "Sign these papers, saying you take full responsibility for the remainder of the lease, or I'm sending Mrs. Henderson the formal request for eviction against you right now." He snatched up the pen and signed. He knew he was backed into a corner. He knew Mrs. Henderson would not tolerate non-payment 2 months in a row. He tried one last manipulation. "So, you're really going to move in with Donald, huh? After all these years, you finally choose him over me?" Donald paused, hefting the lamp awkwardly. Maria snickered into her hand. I looked Alex dead in the eye, feeling strangely calm. "I am not moving in with Donald, Alex. I rented my own place. I'm prioritizing my mental health, my finances, and my career, which you damaged severely. I'm moving on. I wish you luck with your Porthos client." I walked out the door and didn't look back. I'm typing this from my new apartment, which is, yes, basically a shoebox, and the microwave is the size of a toaster, but it is mine. It is officially mine. The fallout is messy. Alex is still in apartment 3B, apparently trying to sublet the place because he can't afford the rent alone. He texted me 17 times demanding the new Netflix password. I changed it to "not your money." I blocked his number after the 17th text, where he accused me of stealing his specialty protein powder. I swear I didn't. The PTO thing is the worst lingering detail. Brenda, my manager, was a saint. I had a long, tearful conversation with her, explaining the situation honestly, without naming names, just referring to coercive financial abuse. She said she couldn't legally restore the hours, but she allowed me to enter an unpaid leave status for a week, and she gave me 2 extra paid days off for the trauma. It's not the Europe trip, but it's something. I've rescheduled the trip for next year, assuming I can rebuild the savings. Donald and I had a very long talk. I showed him the Robert Scott email where Robert confirmed Alex lied about the controlling partner. Donald was horrified. I am so sorry, Kelly. I was projecting my own relationship issues onto Alex, but I should never have used those phrases about you being sensitive when I talked to him, even if I thought I was trying to bond with him. I was being a jealous jerk, and I apologize sincerely. I should have trusted your judgment, not tried to interfere, Donald confessed. It was the most honest character development I've ever seen from Donald. Even offered to co-sign the new lease, which I politely declined, but the gesture meant everything. We are better now. We are solid. Robert Scott, the health nut extremist, is surprisingly the most helpful ongoing character. He keeps sending me texts about Alex's desperate attempts to get money back, which serves as great free confirmation that Alex is still spiraling and I made the right choice. TBH, I kind of feel bad for Robert now. Alex is probably going to try to ruin his reputation. I'm broke. I mean, seriously broke. That $4,000 savings is down to maybe $2,500 after covering the rent and the deposit on the new place. I'm eating ramen and sad desk salads. My credit score took a small hit because I opened up a new utility account so fast. But honestly, I sleep peacefully. Have not woken up with that knot of ice in my stomach since I hit send on the email threatening Robert Scott with the IRS. I realized I spent nearly 3 years allowing Alex to tell me I was overreacting about his erratic income and his weird obsession with Robert Scott, simply because I didn't want to admit I had made a huge mistake trusting him. I am 49. I process trauma for a living, and I ignored every single red flag in my own life. That's the hardest part. Realization that I was complicit in my own deception because I was desperately holding onto the idea of a stable future with him. I went to therapy yesterday, 4 therapy sessions in, and I'm not only unpacking my complicated family history, the whole reason I needed the PTO trip, but I'm unpacking the Alex mess. The therapist said I'm having a breakthrough. I call it Tuesday. Yesterday, I laughed really hard at a stupid TikTok about a cat wearing a tiny hat, and I didn't immediately feel guilty about being happy. That's progress, right? Still have bad days where I mourn the future I thought I was building, but then I remember the Costco parking lot and the $43.67 balance, and Alex trying to extort $20 for gas while carrying a wad of cash, and I realize freedom is a better investment than any Primal Peak performance retreat in Sedona. I'm not entirely sure what comes next. I need to rebuild my PTO and my savings. The shoebox is small, but it's quiet. For the first time in a long time, the only one making decisions about my money, my time, and my future is me. Anyway, thanks for letting me type this all out. It helped. I'll update if Alex does anything else insane, but I'm hoping this is the end of the joint account drain saga. Wish me luck paying the moving company bill. It cost $800, which is exactly how much Alex took out in cash last week. The universe is weird like that. Over and out.